The wind carried sand across the endless desert, covering and uncovering the same dunes again and again. To most, this world was nothing more than a wasteland, a forgotten planet with little value. But to Mark and his team of explorers, it was a mystery waiting to be solved. Mark stood at the edge of a deep trench his crew had dug over the past week. His boots sank slightly into the sand as he peered down at the strange surface they had uncovered. Unlike the golden grains around it, the structure beneath was dark and smooth, made of a metal that did not belong to the desert. The scanners had confirmed the layer stretched for hundreds of meters, forming walls and shapes that spoke of a buried building. Anna, the team's linguist, crouched near one of the exposed walls, brushing away the remaining sand with her gloves. Strange symbols were etched into the metal, sharp and precise, unlike anything she had seen before. She tilted her head, studying them carefully. "These aren't natural. Someone put them here," she said softly. Sam, the youngest member of the crew, let out a whistle as he climbed down beside her. "So, this is it? The famous ruin the locals kept talking about?" Mark nodded. "It has to be. They called it the resting place of a great ruler. The Pharaoh." He spoke the word with weight, remembering the stories he had heard. The people who lived near the desert told of a figure who once commanded not just armies but entire worlds. His tomb, they said, was hidden here, built to last until the end of time. The thought of such a legend made Mark uneasy. He wasn't a man who believed in ghost stories or curses, but something about the site felt different. It wasn't just old, it felt alive, as if the structure was waiting. By evening, the crew managed to uncover a massive doorway. The arch was carved with the same strange symbols Anna had been studying, but these seemed more elaborate. In the fading light, they glowed faintly, pulsing as if reacting to the touch of air after centuries of silence. "Looks like it wants to be opened," Sam said, trying to sound bold though his voice carried a nervous edge. Anna frowned, pressing her hand against the markings. The glow spread beneath her palm, lines of light tracing patterns across the doorway. She quickly pulled her hand back, startled. "It's responsive," she whispered. Mark's eyes narrowed. He didn't like surprises, especially when dealing with something alien. "We'll take it slow. No one touches anything else until we run a full scan." They set up equipment around the entrance, scanning for energy, pressure, or traps. The results were strange. The readings showed a power source deep inside, faint but steady, as though a machine had been running for thousands of years without stopping. "Impossible," Anna murmured as she looked at the data. "Nothing can last that long." Mark crossed his arms. "Maybe nothing we know." That night, as the crew camped near the trench, the desert winds howled louder than usual. The stars above burned bright, but Mark found little comfort in them. He sat by the fire, his thoughts restless. If this truly was the Pharaoh's tomb, what lay inside? Treasures? Weapons? Knowledge beyond human understanding? Or something far more dangerous? He looked at his crew, Anna, studying the markings even by firelight, Sam, pretending to be relaxed while clearly too excited to sleep, and the others, tired but eager. They trusted him to lead them. He could not let fear cloud his judgment. The next morning, the sun rose like a blazing coin over the horizon. The team gathered once more before the sealed door. This time, Mark placed his own hand on the metal surface. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the lines of light reappeared, glowing brighter with every passing second. The desert air seemed to vibrate, carrying a low hum that came from deep below. The ground trembled as the doorway began to shift. Sand poured down as hidden mechanisms moved, grinding against each other. The massive gate opened just enough to reveal a dark passage leading inside. Cold air rushed out, carrying with it the scent of dust, stone, and something else, something ancient. The crew stood in silence, staring into the black corridor. The moment felt heavy, as if they had just crossed an invisible line. Sam broke the silence first. "So, are we really going in there?" Mark took a deep breath. His instincts screamed caution, but his heart told him this was why they had come. He looked at his crew, then back at the vault. "Yes," he said firmly. "We came this far. We'll see what's inside. But remember, this is no ordinary ruin. We move carefully. No mistakes." Anna adjusted her pack and gave him a determined nod. "Then let's make history." Together, they stepped toward the entrance. The shadows of the vault stretched before them, swallowing the light of the desert sun. What awaited them inside was unknown, but one thing was certain: humanity had just awakened something that had been waiting for ages. And the desert would never be the same again. The air inside the vault was cooler than the desert heat outside, yet it carried a weight that pressed down on the crew. Mark walked at the front, his flashlight cutting through the darkness, its beam bouncing off walls that gleamed like polished stone. Unlike the shifting sands above, everything here felt untouched by time. The walls were not plain. As Anna moved closer with her own light, she gasped. Murals stretched across the surfaces, carved with incredible detail. They showed towering figures wearing crowns of flame, ships that crossed the stars, and entire worlds bowing before one ruler. The images were filled with motion, as if the carvings themselves wanted to tell the story of a long-forgotten age. Anna traced her hand near the symbols, careful not to touch. "These aren't random pictures. They're records. Whoever built this wanted their history remembered." Sam tilted his head, whistling softly. "Looks more like they wanted to be worshipped." Mark studied the murals in silence. The central figure was always the same: a tall being with eyes of light, standing above fleets and armies. This must have been the Pharaoh, the one the locals spoke of. The deeper they went, the stronger the sense of being watched became. The corridor twisted, then opened into a vast chamber. The ceiling rose high above their lights, vanishing into shadow. At the center stood rows of massive statues shaped like armored soldiers, each holding a spear tipped with crystal. Their blank faces gave the impression of silent guards, waiting. Sam stepped closer, his voice trembling with a mix of awe and fear. "You think they're just statues?" Mark's gut told him otherwise. He raised a hand to stop Sam from touching. "Keep your distance. Look, their design is too perfect. These aren't for decoration. They're guardians." Before anyone could respond, Anna let out a startled cry. The symbols carved into the floor beneath their boots began to glow, lines of blue light racing outward like veins awakening after a long sleep. The statues trembled. Dust fell from their shoulders. Slowly, one by one, their eyes flickered open, glowing with the same blue fire. The crew froze. The air filled with a deep hum, as if the vault itself had found its voice again after ages of silence. The guardians shifted, lifting their spears, though they did not advance. Instead, they moved in unison, parting to form a path that led to another doorway on the far side of the chamber. Sam's throat went dry. They're telling us where to go." Anna's voice was barely above a whisper. "It's a test. They're watching us." Mark felt his heart hammering in his chest. The Guardians could have destroyed them instantly if they wished, yet they had not. That meant something. "Stay calm," he ordered, his voice steady though he felt far from it. "We follow the path. No one makes sudden moves." With slow steps, the humans moved between the glowing machines. Their lights reflected off the polished armor of the Guardians, making it seem like hundreds of eyes were staring at them from every side. Every sound, boots scraping stone, the faint hiss of their own breathing felt louder than it should. Mark kept his eyes forward. His instincts screamed to turn and run, but he knew retreat would be worse. These machines were alive in some way, bound to the Pharaoh's will even after death. And now, humanity had awakened them. At last, they reached the far door. Unlike the first, this one was already open, the darkness beyond waiting like a mouth ready to swallow them whole. The hum in the chamber quieted, though the Guardians remained alert, spears still raised as if promising swift punishment if the humans turned back or strayed. Inside the next corridor, the walls shifted. No longer carved with battles and conquests, they now showed strange symbols Anna could not translate. The air grew heavier, carrying the faint scent of something metallic and sharp. "This place feels alive," Anna whispered. Mark nodded grimly. "That's because it is. Whatever built this didn't just make walls and statues. They built a machine the size of a city." The corridor bent sharply, leading to a chamber larger than any they had seen before. At its heart stood a colossal throne carved from black stone, its surface inlaid with glowing lines of light. Seated upon it was a figure, unmoving yet unmistakably powerful. The body was alien, taller than any human, its skin like bronze metal, its crown shaped like fire frozen in solid form. Though the figure did not stir, its presence filled the room. Sam whispered, "Is that him?" Anna nodded slowly, unable to take her eyes off the figure. "The Pharaoh." As if in answer, the room brightened. Holograms sparked to life, filling the air with shifting images, fleets of ships, star systems, battles fought and lost. A deep, echoing voice filled the chamber, speaking in a tongue none of them knew, yet its tone carried weight enough to freeze their blood. The Pharaoh had awakened. Mark tightened his grip on his flashlight, though it felt like a weak weapon against such power. "He knows we're here," he said quietly. The vault had opened. The Guardians had stirred. And now, the ruler of a forgotten empire was watching humanity with eyes that had not closed in 1,000 years. The chamber seemed to breathe with energy. The towering figure on the throne did not move, yet the presence around it grew stronger with every passing moment. The holograms that filled the air flickered between images of war, victory, and destruction, then faded, leaving only silence. Mark stepped forward cautiously, his boots echoing on the polished floor. He could feel Anna and Sam tense behind him, waiting for what might come next. The Pharaoh's figure sat in stillness, its crown glowing faintly, its eyes closed as if asleep. Then the voice returned, deep, resonant, and impossible to ignore. Though the words were foreign, something within them carried meaning. Anna's device, tuned to analyze language, began to hum as it tried to find patterns. The alien speech slowed, the sounds reshaping until at last the words reached their ears in broken but clear human speech. "Who dares disturb my eternal rest?" The voice shook the chamber. Dust drifted from the high ceiling, and the glowing patterns on the walls flared brighter. Sam stumbled back a step, but Mark stood firm, raising his voice though his throat was dry. "We are explorers. We seek knowledge, not conquest. We come in peace." For a long moment, the figure on the throne gave no reply. Then its eyes opened, twin orbs of blazing light. The Guardians lining the chamber stirred, their spears lowering, though they did not strike. Instead, The Pharaoh's voice came again, louder this time. Peace? You speak as those before you spoke. Words are simple. Worth must be proven. You will be tested. The floor beneath them shifted. Sections of stone pulled apart, forming glowing patterns that rearranged into shapes. From the walls, 3 doorways opened, each lit with pale blue light. The Pharaoh raised one hand, pointing. Mind. Courage. Unity. These trials will show who you are. Anna's eyes widened. It's giving us a choice. Tests. Mark nodded slowly. Then we face them. Together. The first doorway led them into a hall filled with symbols covering every wall, floor, and ceiling. They shimmered with faint light, changing position as the crew moved. The air was thick, almost pressing down on their shoulders. This is mine, Anna whispered. She studied the shifting runes, her fingers twitching as if writing in the air. It's a language puzzle. They're asking me to understand. The others stood back as she moved from one wall to another, muttering to herself. Hours seemed to pass as she pieced together meaning. At one point, the room darkened, and the walls began to close in. Sweat trickled down her face, but she pressed on, drawing patterns in the sand with her finger. Finally, she touched a single glowing rune at the center of the chamber. The symbols froze, then brightened in unison. The walls retreated, the pressure lifted, and the doorway reopened. Anna fell to her knees, exhausted but smiling. It wanted to know if we could learn. We passed. The second trial was harsher. The doorway led to a wide hall with no ceiling. High above, weapons mounted on the walls shifted, glowing with energy. Without warning, they fired beams of light that scorched the floor, forcing the crew to scatter. Sam shouted over the noise. It's targeting us. Mark pulled him down behind a block of stone. The beams shifted, aiming again. He realized it wasn't random, it was designed to test their will to survive. The machines weren't trying to kill outright, but to see how much they could endure. When one beam angled toward Anna, Sam leaped forward, shoving her out of the way. The blast struck the ground where she had been standing, leaving a charred mark. Sam groaned as the heat burned his arm, but he stood again, ready to protect the others. Mark dragged him back, shouting, "Stay with us." But Sam shook his head. No. It wants courage, right? Then it'll see it. Despite the pain, he pressed on, waving his arms and drawing the beams toward himself, giving the others time to move across the chamber. At last, Mark reached the far wall, where a glowing crystal waited. He slammed his hand onto it, and the beams stopped. Silence fell. Sam collapsed, breathing hard, but alive. Mark helped him to his feet. That was reckless, he said, though his voice carried pride. The final trial was different. The doorway opened into a narrow passage that split into 3 paths, each leading into darkness. The crew hesitated. The choice seemed designed to divide them. Mark shook his head. No. The test is unity. If we split, we fail. We go together, even if it's harder. They chose the center path as one. The walls shook, the ground threatened to give way, but they held onto each other, moving step by step. At one point, a chasm opened beneath them. Sam nearly slipped, but Mark caught his hand, and Anna pulled from the other side. Together, they crossed. At last, the passage opened back into the throne chamber. The Pharaoh still sat, watching. The guardians stood silent, their spears raised high. The voice returned, deeper than before. You have shown learning. You have shown courage. You have shown unity. Humanity is not as those who came before. But still, I will watch. The throne glowed brighter, and the chamber shook. The trials were over, but the true judgment was yet to come. The chamber glowed with a strange light after the trials ended. The Pharaoh's form remained still upon the throne, yet his eyes blazed brighter, as though he had seen into the hearts of the humans. The silence stretched, heavy and thick, until at last the deep voice returned, echoing across the vast hall. You have walked the paths of my test. Few have done so. Listen now to the truth of what you have disturbed. The walls of the chamber stirred. Murals shifted like flowing water, their carvings turning into moving pictures. The explorers gasped as they witnessed scenes that looked more real than any history book or recording. They saw fleets of alien ships, their wings burning with power, flying in perfect formation across endless skies. They saw cities carved into the bones of mountains, towers reaching into space. And always, in the center of it all, the same crowned figure appeared, the Pharaoh, larger than life, a ruler who commanded not just soldiers but entire civilizations. Anna's eyes shone with awe. This is a record of his empire. We're seeing his history. Mark crossed his arms as he watched. The scenes shifted from glory to war. Worlds burned under fleets that clashed across the stars. The Pharaoh stood victorious over enemies, but each victory seemed to demand more sacrifice. Armies grew larger, machines more deadly, until even the stars seemed dimmed by the scale of destruction. Finally, the images changed again. The great ruler stood alone, surrounded by ruins. His fleets lay shattered, his cities silent. The murals darkened, showing endless silence after the storms of war. The Pharaoh's voice filled the chamber again. I was king of 1,000 sons. I ruled through strength and fear. And yet, my empire fell, as all empires must. Pride consumed us. War broke us. I swore my secrets would never pass to hands unworthy. So I built this tomb, and I bound my guardians to test any who entered. To see if any could rise higher than I did. The words struck the crew like a weight. Mark clenched his fists, feeling the gravity of what they had walked into. This was not simply a tomb, it was a warning. Sam, still nursing the burn from the trial, muttered, so he's waiting for someone to finish what he started. Anna shook her head. No. He wants to see if we can avoid his mistakes. This isn't just a treasure vault. It's a judgment. At that moment, the chamber shifted again. From the sides of the throne, smaller guardians stepped forward. Unlike the tall armored statues, these were delicate in design, their hands shaped for holding rather than striking. Each carried an object, one a small sphere of crystal, another a tablet carved with endless symbols, and the last a weapon of alien design. Their offerings, Mark said. Gifts, or maybe temptations. The Pharaoh's eyes blazed brighter. Knowledge. Power. Destruction. Each is yours to claim, if you believe yourselves worthy. Choose wisely, for choice reveals the soul. The crew hesitated. Anna stepped toward the tablet, her heart racing. This could teach us more than we've ever known about alien civilizations, about language, about history. Sam, however, looked at the weapon with unease. If this thing works, it could change everything. Armies, wars, who knows what humans would do with it. Mark studied the crystal sphere. It glowed faintly, pulsing like a heart. Something about it felt different, less a tool, more a key. "We're being tested again," Mark said slowly. "Not by fighting. By choice. He wants to see who we are." The silence stretched as the crew wrestled with the weight of the decision. Finally, Mark turned to Anna and Sam. "If we take knowledge, we can learn. If we take power, we risk becoming what he once was. But if we take nothing, we show respect." Anna bit her lip. "What if respect means walking away empty-handed?" Mark looked at the Pharaoh's glowing eyes. "Then maybe that's the point." He stepped back from the crystal. "We came here to learn, not to rule. We will take memory, not weapons." Anna placed her hand on the tablet. The symbols glowed, and the chamber filled with a soft light. The weapon faded into the floor, the crystal dissolved into dust. Only the tablet remained, its surface glowing with lines of living script. The Pharaoh's voice returned, quieter this time, almost like a whisper of wind through stone. "You have chosen wisdom. You honor what was lost. Yet beware, knowledge can also destroy." The guardians stepped back, returning to stillness. The throne dimmed slightly, though the ruler's eyes never left them. The crew stood in silence, the weight of the moment pressing deep into their hearts. They had seen the rise and fall of an empire, and they had chosen their path. But Mark could not shake the feeling that the trials were not over. The Pharaoh's last words in that chamber confirmed his fear. "You are not finished. More awaits. And your true test is yet to come." The chamber was quiet after the Pharaoh's voice faded. The glowing tablet Anna now carried pulsed faintly, as if alive. The humans stood together, their faces lit by its soft light, each feeling the weight of the choice they had made. Mark placed a steady hand on Anna's shoulder. "Keep it safe. That knowledge might be more powerful than any weapon." Anna nodded, holding it close. Sam leaned against a pillar, still pale from the burns of the last trial. "Feels like we passed the hard part," he said, though his voice lacked certainty. Mark glanced at the throne. The Pharaoh no longer spoke, his eyes dimmer, yet Mark felt certain they were still being watched. The vault itself seemed alive, waiting for their next move. The crew began their slow walk back toward the entrance, the tablet safely in Anna's pack. The guardians along the walls remained motionless, their eyes glowing faintly, like lanterns watching them leave. For the first time since entering the vault, Mark felt hope rising. Perhaps they had proven humanity worthy. But that hope shattered when they reached the outer chamber. Standing at the newly opened doorway was another man, dusty clothes, sharp eyes, and a smug smile. His name was Jonas, a rival treasure hunter who had followed their expedition from the start. Mark had suspected someone shadowed them, but he hadn't expected Jonas to make it this far. Well, Jonas said, his voice dripping with satisfaction. "I knew you'd do all the hard work for me. And look, you've found the Pharaoh's prize." Anna stiffened, clutching her pack tighter. "This isn't treasure, Jonas. It's dangerous. It doesn't belong to you." Jonas laughed. "Everything belongs to the one strong enough to take it. You people never understood that." He stepped into the chamber, his boots crunching against the stone. His eyes darted toward the throne, then the tablet. "Give it to me." Mark moved in front of Anna. "We earned this. You don't know what you're dealing with." "Neither do you," Jonas snapped. "But I'm willing to take the risk." "Hand it over, or I'll take it." Before Mark could reply, Jonas lunged forward. His hand shot past Mark's guard and yanked the glowing tablet free from Anna's pack. She gasped and reached after him, but Jonas was already pulling it against his chest like a prize. The moment his skin touched the surface, the chamber came alive. The floor shook violently. The guardians, who had stood silent for centuries, roared to life. Their eyes burned brighter, their spears lifted, and the hum of ancient machines filled the air. "You fool!" Anna cried. "It wasn't meant for you." Jonas grinned, though his face paled as the tablet burned against his palm. The glowing symbols shifted rapidly, rejecting him. He tried to hold on, but the light grew stronger, spilling across the floor like fire. The Pharaoh's voice returned, thunderous with fury. "Greed. Corruption. You are not worthy." From the shadows, guardians marched forward, their heavy steps shaking the chamber. Spears pointed toward Jonas, who stumbled back. For the first time, fear flickered in his eyes. "Wait, no. I deserve this. It's mine." But the guardians did not listen. They surrounded him in a circle of light, their spears crackling with energy. Jonas tried to run, but the floor shifted beneath him, cutting off every path. Mark pulled Anna and Sam back toward the wall, shielding them as the vault unleashed its judgment. The guardians struck as one. Bright energy engulfed Jonas, and his cry echoed through the hall before being cut short. When the light faded, he was gone. The tablet lay on the ground, untouched, glowing faintly as if nothing had happened. The guardians stepped back into their places, silent once more. The Pharaoh's voice lowered, calm but sharp. "This is the fate of those who seek only to take. Remember, humans' power is not possession. Worth is proven by choice." The chamber fell still again, though the echo of Jonas's end lingered in the air. Sam swallowed hard, his face pale. That could have been any of us." Anna bent down carefully, lifting the tablet with reverence. This time, it did not resist her touch. "It knows who it belongs to," she whispered. Mark's jaw tightened. He felt no joy in Jonas's fate, only a heavy reminder of how close they all stood to disaster. One wrong choice, one moment of greed, and they could share the same end. He looked back toward the throne. "Pharaoh," he said quietly, "if you're watching, hear this: we don't want to be what you once were. We'll learn. We'll do better." No voice answered, but the eyes of the statue seemed to dim slightly, as if in acknowledgement. With the path ahead uncertain, Mark turned to his crew. "We keep moving. This isn't over. If Jonas could follow us, maybe others can too. We have to finish what we started before more lives are lost." Anna nodded, clutching the tablet close. Sam forced a grin despite the fear still in his eyes. "Well, at least now we know what happens when someone doesn't pass the test. I'll stick with the team." Together, they pressed on, leaving behind the memory of betrayal and the proof of what greed could cost. But as the desert wind howled faintly through cracks in the ancient walls, Mark knew one thing with certainty: the hardest test was still to come. The vault seemed quieter after the chaos with Jonas. The glowing tablet in Anna's hands pulsed softly, almost like a heartbeat, while the guardians stood perfectly still once more. Mark, Anna, and Sam moved carefully toward the inner throne chamber, their footsteps echoing across the polished floor. The sense of being watched was stronger than ever. Mark's mind raced. Jonas had been reckless, greedy, and the vault had punished him instantly. But this was only a warning. The Pharaoh's true judgment had not yet been revealed. The thought made his chest tighten. When they reached the throne, the colossal figure of the Pharaoh rose slightly, his crown burning with faint light. His eyes, twin orbs of fire, turned to them. The chamber trembled as the voice boomed, echoing through the vast hall. "Humans. You have faced my trials. You have made choices. You have endured. Now I speak my judgment. Mark stepped forward, keeping his voice steady despite the fear rising in his chest. We came seeking knowledge, not power. We mean no harm. We only wish to learn and to understand. The Pharaoh's gaze seemed to pierce him. Your words are strong, but actions weigh more than speech. You have shown courage, unity, and wisdom. But do you possess the strength to bear what you have awakened? Anna opened the tablet and held it out slightly. We will be careful. We will use what we learn to protect our people and explore the stars responsibly. We do not seek to repeat your mistakes. The throne glowed brighter, and the holographic projections around them returned. Scenes of the Pharaoh's empire appeared again, but this time, they showed the consequences of ambition and pride. Worlds destroyed, civilizations lost, and countless lives consumed by endless war. You see, the Pharaoh said, I ruled through strength and conquest, believing I could shape the universe. But all I left was ruin. Those who came after inherited nothing but my failures. Mark nodded, feeling the weight of the words. We understand. We will not follow that path. Humanity can learn, and we will learn from history, not repeat it. The Pharaoh's eyes narrowed, glowing brighter. Many have said such words before. Few have proved them. You risked greed, endured danger, and preserved wisdom. That is rare. That is worthy. Sam took a deep breath, still feeling the burn from earlier trials. So, we passed. Passed, the Pharaoh repeated, his voice softer now. But pass only opens a door. The true journey begins when knowledge meets choice. You may leave this chamber alive, but the future rests in your hands. Do you have the courage to shape it with care? Mark swallowed hard. Yes. We will carry the responsibility. We will honor your legacy by learning, not by conquering. The Pharaoh rose fully from the throne, his body a mix of metal and flesh, glowing faintly with the energy of 1,000 stars. He walked toward Mark, Anna, and Sam, moving with a power that was almost overwhelming. The guardians shifted slightly, forming a protective circle around the Pharaoh, their spears pointed outward as if ready to strike any threat. You have been tested. You have been judged. The path ahead will not be easy. You will face choices that determine the fate of worlds. But I see in you the spirit of humanity, curious, strong, and capable of greatness. The Pharaoh extended a glowing hand toward the tablet. Take this knowledge, and bear it with care. Let it guide you, not rule you. Let it open paths of discovery, not paths of war. You are entrusted with my legacy because you have proven worthy. Anna accepted the tablet, her hands trembling. The glow of the symbols spread across her palms and arms, but this time, it felt gentle, welcoming. The tablet seemed to recognize her, responding to her intentions. Mark placed a hand on her shoulder. We will do everything we can to honor this trust. Humanity will not fail. The Pharaoh stepped back toward the throne. His form began to fade slightly, blending with the light and the walls around him. Remember this lesson. Power without wisdom destroys. Knowledge without respect corrupts. Courage without unity leads to ruin. Go now, and show the universe what humanity can become. As the Pharaoh's figure vanished, the guardians lowered their spears and returned to their motionless state. The chamber seemed calmer, peaceful, yet the weight of what had occurred lingered. The humans stood in awe, understanding fully that they had been given not just knowledge, but responsibility. Sam let out a long breath. I didn't think we'd survive that. But, We did. And we're still here. Anna nodded, holding the tablet close. We survived because we stayed together. We survived because we made the right choices. That's what the Pharaoh wanted to see. Mark looked around the chamber one last time. The vault has tested us, judged us, and given us a gift. Now it is our turn. We leave here with knowledge that can change the course of our people, our worlds. We must honor it. The three explorers turned toward the path leading out of the vault. The desert light shone faintly through the open doorway, a reminder that the world above still waited. Yet now, they carried something far greater than survival. They carried the legacy of an empire that had fallen, and with it, the chance to show that humanity could rise higher than any before. Mark took a deep breath and stepped forward, followed by Anna and Sam. The Guardians remained behind, silent and eternal, but the lesson they carried would follow humanity wherever they went. The Pharaoh's judgment was complete. The vault was silent, but its gift would echo across the stars. Humanity had been tested, and humanity had passed. The sun had risen over the desert as Mark, Anna, and Sam stepped out of the vault. The vast dunes stretched endlessly, golden and silent. The wind shifted, brushing sand across the entrance where they had awoken a long-forgotten empire. For a moment, the three explorers paused, catching their breath and letting the weight of what had happened sink in. The vault behind them was silent, still as a tomb once more. Yet its presence lingered in their minds. They carried more than memories, they carried knowledge that could shape the future of humanity. The tablet in Anna's hands pulsed softly, as if reminding them of the responsibility it contained. Mark looked out over the desert, feeling the enormity of their task. "We have something no one else on Earth or any colony has," he said quietly. "Knowledge that can guide humanity. But we have to use it wisely." Anna nodded. "The Pharaoh trusted us. He tested us and judged us worthy. That trust is heavier than any weapon or treasure." Sam shifted his weight nervously. "I keep thinking about Jonas. If someone else finds this vault and ignores the lessons, it could all go wrong. We have to protect it." Mark agreed. "We do. But first, we must understand it ourselves. The tablet shows parts of the empire, the technology, the ships, the cities. We need to study it carefully." As they walked back toward their camp, the desert wind carried a strange clarity. The knowledge from the vault seemed to energize them. Anna opened the tablet and traced her fingers across the glowing lines. Symbols rearranged themselves, forming images and maps, blueprints, and charts. Each layer revealed more than the last: star systems, energy sources, propulsion designs, even advanced medicine and sustainable architecture. "This is incredible," Anna whispered. "We could build fleets, explore new planets, even help struggling colonies. But it has to be done carefully. Otherwise, we risk repeating the Pharaoh's mistakes." Mark placed a hand on her shoulder. "And we will. That's the promise we made inside the vault." Sam kicked a small stone across the sand. "I thought surviving the Guardians was the hardest part. But now I see the real test is what we do next. We have the power to shape worlds. That's bigger than any trial in the vault." They reached their camp, the small ship waiting, its engines dormant. The desert was quiet, yet in that stillness, Mark felt a stirring of possibility. The vault had given humanity a second chance, a chance to rise higher than before. Anna glanced at the tablet again. "Look at this. There are charts of other civilizations, some already extinct, others thriving. We could learn diplomacy, trade, and even protection from past mistakes." Mark nodded. Knowledge is stronger than weapons. If we use it to unite, not divide, humanity can become a force for good in the galaxy. That is what the Pharaoh saw in us. The sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the dunes. The explorers prepared their ship for departure, carefully packing their supplies and the tablet. They knew this journey would not be easy. They would face challenges from those who sought power, from dangers in unexplored systems, and from the weight of the choices they now carried. But for the first time, they felt capable. Humanity had endured the vault, passed its tests, and earned the right to inherit its wisdom. As the engines roared to life, Mark looked back at the vault. Its massive doorway now appeared ordinary, hidden beneath the desert sands. Yet inside, it held a universe of knowledge, waiting for those with courage, unity, and wisdom to discover it. Anna turned to Mark. "Do you think humanity is ready?" Mark smiled, a mixture of determination and hope shining in his eyes. "We will make it ready. We have to. The Pharaoh gave us the chance, and we cannot fail." Sam joined them, fastening his seat belt. "Then let's take this gift to the stars. Let's show what humanity can do." The ship lifted from the desert surface, engines glowing with energy as it ascended. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of sand and the feeling of history long past but not forgotten. Below, the vault remained, silent and eternal, guarding its secrets until the next worthy souls might arrive. Above the dunes, the explorers looked out at the horizon. New worlds waited, new challenges, new discoveries. Humanity had inherited the knowledge of a fallen empire, but it was not just a gift, it was a responsibility. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter, as if recognizing the potential of a species ready to rise. Mark, Anna, and Sam shared a quiet glance, understanding the weight of the moment. They had faced the Pharaoh's trials, endured betrayal, and survived judgment. Now, they carried the legacy of a civilization that had once ruled countless worlds. And with it, humanity had the chance to prove that they could rise higher, think wiser, and shine brighter than anyone who had come before. As the ship soared toward the horizon, the desert below faded into a golden expanse. The vault would wait, but humanity had already begun its journey. The Pharaoh's judgment was complete, and his gift would echo through generations. Humanity had inherited the stars, and now it was their time to prove themselves worthy.